What movie is a 010? Artemis Fowl and Percy Jackson. Even the author of Percy Jackson, Rick Riordan, described them as his life's work going through a meat grinder. Disney's Artemis Fowl, the only thing they took from the books was the title and the names of some characters. Literally everything else was completely made up, has nothing to do with the plot of the books, and is portrayed in a way that would feel condescending to a 5-year-old. Slenderman 2018. NGL. A small teeny tiny part of me had a sliver of hope for this movie, especially considering that Slenderman would be the perfect creepypasta character to center a movie around, but no, they fucked it up in every way imaginable. Artemis Fowl. I've seen Shrek 3, I've seen the Percy Jackson movies, I've seen the god-awful Emoji movie, but this movie is the most rushed, lifeless piece of garbage that I've ever seen. It's so unbelievably bad, it isn't even ironically funny, except for the cases where the CGI design was atrocious. It feels like what happens if you play a game, skip all the cutscenes, and try to recap the story. I pity those who have read the Artemis Fowl books and witnessed how the movie desecrated the story, which seems to be way better than this disaster makes it out to be. Bad movies. Nice sub for movies so bad that people actually enjoy them for how bad they are. That said, The Pest with John Leguizamo. I watched it constantly as a kid and recently rewatched it as an adult, and goddamn, it was terrible. Still nostalgic though. I've deliberated this in my head a lot, but I've decided that Dragon Ball Evolution is the worst movie ever made, a complete mockery and insult to the franchise it is adapting, in addition to just being a horrible movie overall. In fact, I believe one writer even publicly apologized for it. Close second is Disaster Movie. It was supposed to be intentionally bad, but it somehow was still worse than I could have thought. Another contender is The Last Airbender, same reason as Dragon Ball, but not quite as egregious. A less-known bad movie that is maybe not quite zero territory is Skyline. Holmes and Watson. That Will Ferrell movie. It is, to date, the only movie in my life that I have actually walked out of the theater rather than finish. I certainly wasn't expecting anything serious, obviously, but it was just bad. Fantastic Four, the latest one. I tend to find redeemer features in any film, but this one almost made me leave the cinema halfway into it. We knew it was bad but wasn't expecting that. Lamagedon was really bad. It was about a llama that came from space and went on a murderous rampage as it attempted to reproduce and take over the planet. Everyone is listing bad movies, but are they really all 0-10? You want something actually downright unwatchable? Check out Manos, The Hands of Fate. There are movies that are so bad they're fun. Manos is not that. Manos just sucks. Tom Cruise's The Mummy. I say Tom Cruise's because it's well known he basically took over that whole movie and it ended up such a disaster they had to scrap all their plans for a monster movie universe starring Johnny Depp as the Invisible Man and Angelina Jolie as the Bride of Frankenstein with Javier Bardem as Frankenstein's monster. That's a lot of talent to lose because Tom couldn't help himself. I hated that movie so much. Downsizing. The trailer made it seem like a movie exploring the concept of humans shrinking themselves and leading more efficient lives, yet the movie completely ignores the fact that everyone is downsized and the storyline randomly switches to the world ending. Genuinely the worst movie I've ever seen. Brahms, The Boy 2. It is a rare thing that I find a movie that I don't, on some level, like. Most movies I find have redeeming qualities even if they are so bad. They're either cute on some level, or at least absurdly funny. An example most people will know is The Room. Rambling, poorly made, but hilarious and good in its own way. Movies have many ways to be enjoyed. That being said, Brahms, The Boy 2 does not have a way to be enjoyed, it has no absurdity, it tries so hard to be dark and is really just insensitive and corny. And it's boring, so boring. Not only that, it retroactively ruins the first The Boy movie. That wasn't much either, but the twist was cool. The second movie ruins that by debunking the twist. All in all, this is the only movie that I couldn't find some way of enjoying and didn't spark at least some joy in me. The fucking Assassin's Creed movie. I swear that movie is 99% exposition, and it's literally nothing like any of the games that came out before it. There's very little combat, even less Parker. All in all, a steaming pile of shit, and the full reason why I stopped playing the games. Fanforstic. The movies before this one were good, because they were kinda tacky. And comic books are supposed to be tacky, but Fanforstic was god-awful. There was literally no action in the movie until the ending fight scene, and the story was just bad. The Fantastic Four are normally supposed to be a light and cheery group, but whoever directed it decided to make it go a whole other direction and create the most depressing piece of garbage to ever exist. Edit autocorrect. For me, it's the 2015 Fantastic Four or Fanforstic, and the jaw-sweating version of Justice League. They were just intolerable to watch. As I'm Indian, I'd like to mention not one, but 98% of our main film industry, Bollywood. These 98% movies are fully trash, have illogical love stories, unnecessary item songs, over-sexualization of women, item songs which have zero relation to the movie, and defying science and logic as if it never existed. There's more, but the list would be never ending. So yeah, imagine how bad it is. Not praising Hollywood or other film industries, but at least most of their movies are better and have some logic to the very least. Surprised nobody else has mentioned it yet. Milan 2020. If you haven't seen the original and don't know any of the behind-the-scenes details, it's a really boring action movie with some of the worst editing I've ever seen and incredibly flat and lifeless performances. If you have seen the original movie, it's a spit in the face of everything that made that one great. It takes out integral parts of the original story, only to replace them with nothing, all while constantly trying to trigger your nostalgia with scenes/dialogue/music that make no sense with the changes they've made, and contradict the good morals of the original with some pretty regressive and stupid ones. And if you know the context behind the scenes, that decisions made by Disney in making the movie were reprehensibly immoral and irresponsible, and considering how awful and straight-up unfinished the movie itself was, a $30 price tag was nothing short of a scam. God's not dead. I am not a Christian, but I thought this movie would be about philosophy. Instead, I was treated to over an hour of idiocy that made atheism into cartoon villainy and Christianity into a dull-minded righteousness entirely void of intellectual content. Honestly, I think this movie was a great insult to the intellectual and artistic traditions associated with Christianity, and a sign of the utter disdain for scholarship, learning and intellectual inquiry that is running rampant in the USA. Anything directed by Jason Friedberg and Aaron Seltzer, so things like Date Movie, Meet the Spartans, etc. Not even good parodies of the genres they were trying to spoof, just shoehorning in some dated pop culture references for a cheap laugh or two. New Milan movie. It took everything that made the first one good, and removed it, then make up a bunch of extra shit nobody wanted and end up with a mediocre movie that never should have been made. And that's not even going into the issues with political problems China has around it. The second Transformers movie. Went to see this 2 days after my father unexpectedly passed away, so me and my brothers decided to go see this to take our minds off things. After leaving the theater, I realized that my dad dying was only the second worst thing I experienced in that week. The Last Airbender. Let's compress the whole first season of this popular animated show into about 90 minutes, whitewash the cast, mispronounce the title character's name non-stop, and generally FCK up every single thing that makes the show good. FCKU, Shyamalan. May the fleas of 1,000 camels roost in your pubic hairs. The live-action Mulan. They got rid of Mushu, fucking Mushu, and the cricket too. WHY? Mushu was like a part of the plot. He was hilarious. He was perfectly fine. Why get rid of him? If you can make a live-action Beauty and the Beast, how hard can it be to put a tiny dragon and cricket in a realistic Mulan? It's just not the same at all. I know it realistically isn't a 0-10, but if you've seen the original Mulan, it's literally unwatchable. To people who haven't seen the original, it's probably fine, so I guess it's not 0-10, but for me it is, who thought removing Mushu was a good idea. The New Mutants movie. Never before have I seen such a drop of quality after such an amazing movie such as Far From Home. The damn actors suck more than a roof-eyed, drunk and high James Charles. Literally the only actor that knew how to do their job was the dude that was on Stranger Things, but I forgot the name of. He is the only talent in this movie. I hate to see Marvel like this. Gods of Egypt. Never have I been so bored by a film. Each set piece is full of action yet manages to be extremely dull, and the story and acting are flatter than the Netherlands. The Golden Compass. Not even a huge budget. Nicole Kidman and Sam Elliott, who's a GD national treasure, could save it from being a flaming pile of rubbish. It was so bad they tossed the planned second and third sequels into the dumpster fire started by the first one. Double insult because the books are a rare gem, hauntingly beautiful. A Wrinkle in Time. I refuse to leave a movie without finishing it. Just a thing about me, so I hate watch this for 2 hours because it was so bad it offended me. Cargo. 2017. A rip-off of Cars. Ratatouille. A rip-off of Ratatouille. Joshua and the Promised Land. A terrible religious animation that apparently took 4 years to make. Spider's Web. A Pig's Tale. A rip-off of I think both Charlotte's Web and Babe 2, The Snow Queen and its sequel. It looks like a bad rip-off of Frozen, but it came out before Frozen, the entire Alpha and Omega series, and Balto 2 and 3. I like the first one. There was that movie called Sucker Punch and it was bad, so bad that it wasn't even a good bad movie club watch. The plot was, the acting was, and no one, not a single person in our 10-person bad movie club understood what it was about. 0-10 do not watch. The Happening is the worst movie I've ever seen. The plot twist is stupid and the writing makes it seem like the characters are waiting to say something but can't. Mark Wahlberg is a good actor but his character is so underdeveloped that you kind of pity him. My least favorite M. Night film. Even After the Village. Paint drying. It's literally a 10-hour movie of paint drying on a wall. It was made to protest BBFC censorship and prohibitive cost. The regulators had to watch all 10 hours, so at least one human being had to watch it. Safe to say it's a 0 out of 10. Wonder Woman 1984 has to be the worst superhero movie I've seen. It's even worse than Superman 4: The Search for Peace. Nothing at all makes any fucking sense in that movie. I fell asleep halfway through, finished watching it, regretted it. It has no redeeming quality to it at all. Lucy. Let me fill you in. A girl gets kidnapped and a Chinese gang fills her tummy, surgically, with drugs, that she is supposed to smuggle to the US. They take her back to this prison cell-looking thing waiting for the morning, and the bag of drugs pops in her stomach at which point she unlocks 100% of her brain, and the shit that really gets me is the narrator, Morgan Freeman, is on some side quest bullshit teaching a college class and telling them humans don't use more than 10% normally. The movie periodically cuts to Morgan's class so we can get filled in on what the fuck is happening to Lucy. It's kind of like they knew the movie was garbage and unflowable, so added a tutorial. If you are lost so far, that's okay, because I'm explaining this quite well. The movie is just dog shit. So by unlocking 100% of her brain she can download the internet, learn Chinese, the whole language, by looking at 4 street signs, knows kung fu, surgery, and has perfect accuracy to take down the drug ring. Oh shit, I missed one. She can literally control objects and people with her mind. Men in Black, International. It was eerie how badly directed it was. Somehow was just so flat, you don't care about the story you're watching. And I've seen a million of those weird edge case movies, Kung Pao, Troll 2, The Giver, The Room. Men in Black International. I took a girl to see it and that was my first date with anyone ever, and since the date didn't go horrifically, that movie had a special place in my heart and I remembered it through rose-tinted glasses. Then one day, I saw it again and was disgusted with myself. Gamer. It has got to be one of the worst insults to gaming culture and movie quality. It shows gamers as only horny no-lives. The directors seem to put explicit content everywhere they could. The cinematography is all over the place, and the fat sweaty horny guy serves no purpose in the movie besides more explicitness. That last Hellboy movie hasn't been mentioned at all, and that shows how bad it is. 0-10 Script, effects, directing, costumes, acting. I've questioned my entire life now because it brought me to a decision where I paid money to see that terrible movie. Star Wars Episode 9. They killed off a potentially good villain in a heartbeat and long-dead Palpatine appears out of nowhere to fight the fated lovers which have zero chemistry. Lazy writing at its laziest. After Earth with Will and Jaden Smith was probably the worst film I've ever seen, and I honestly think everybody that saw it agreed with that statement. Will Smith called it the most painful failure of his career. The second Percy Jackson movie is a disgrace to the entire franchise as a whole. The first was alright, but dear lord I hate the second one with a burning passion. Also Hotel Transylvania 3 is a fat load of steaming hot garbage. The first one was amazing and I loved it. The second was alright, though I didn't love it as much. But number 3, it's like someone looked at the first 2 movies, both of which are entertaining and quite charming in their own ways, and just took a massive shit on them and called it a film. Aloha, 2015. A movie starring some of my favorite actors, Bradley Cooper, Rachel McAdams, John Krasinski, Emma Stone, that is so poorly directed and so oddly edited that it is almost unwatchable. The script is chaos, none of the actors fit their characters and it feels like a poorly written and directed forgettable Disney Channel film. I worked at a movie theater. We had to screen every movie before we showed it. For the really bad movies, my boss allowed us to clock in, so I watched Annie 2014, with Jamie Foxx. I was literally being paid to watch the film and I still walked out halfway through. What a heartless, soulless, excruciatingly annoying movie that was. Ham-fisting cameos to make me try to watch. They literally named the dog after a hurricane that killed hundreds of people. Fuck you, Annie. Anyone know Noah? The one where Russell Crowe plays Noah, for a movie that is I think just under 2 hours. It felt like 5. For some reason there is an evil tribe trying to steal or destroy the Ark or something, and there are big rock golems helping Noah build and defend it. Then Noah turns into a psychopath and tries to murder his own grandchild. Like what? This movie didn't even insult my beliefs. I'm agnostic. It was just insulting in every way a movie could be, and is still the only movie I truly hate, -100 After scrolling through 200+ comments and not seeing it, it's time to add my movie pick, Maximum Ride. They didn't even get the main character's features right, and despite the fact that the movie is only supposed to cover the first book, it's still missing more than half of the story.